Okay, what is up, everyone? Sam here from 609 Sports Talk coming at you guys with a little bit of a different bit of content going with a recorded video today for our football conversation. And I wanted to take today to go a little more in depth on something. And what I want to talk about today is that I don't believe that Tampa Bay Buccaneers GM Jason Licht gets anywhere near the amount of national attention that he should as one of the league's best GMs. Now, of course, we all know Jason Licht took the Tampa Bay Buccaneers GM job over in 2014, and that's kind of where we're going to start out with this timeline, and that's really where he started to put together this Buccaneers franchise back into a really good spot. They drafted Mike Evans that year, and he became the cornerstone of their wide receiver room. He's easily, in my opinion, on a Hall of Fame trajectory in his career, as his career is getting toward the back end. I still believe he's a Hall of Famer one day. 1,000 yards every season in a Tampa Bay Buccaneers uniform. That's something that we don't see a lot of these days. And then, of course, we know that in 2015, they were handed the number one overall pick, and they did end up taking Jameis Winston, which, at the end of the day, the only thing Jameis Winston is known for in a Tampa Bay Buccaneers uniform is his historical 30 for 30 season. And no, I'm not talking about the ESPN 30 for 30. I'm talking about 30 touchdowns, 30 interceptions. Yikes. But then, as we were getting towards after the Winston era was over, they started to draft more cornerstones during that time. They drafted Chris Godwin. He went in perfectly next to Mike Evans as their wide receiver too. And they had two really good Pro Bowl caliber wide receivers on each side. Then you go into, and then they started to draft more cornerstones. They drafted Villa to be the cornerstone of their defensive line back in 2018. They drafted Antoine Winfield Jr., who's been a cornerstone in their secondary. They drafted Tristan Wirfs to be their bookend at the left tackle position. Now, ironically, the funniest part about this whole thing with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers is they have somehow gotten better at the most important position on the football field, which is the quarterback position, outside of the organization. You know, they had Jameis Winston. That didn't work out. But then after that, Jason Licht went out and he signed in my opinion, the greatest quarterback of all time, Tom Brady, away from the New England Patriots, which ultimately worked out. Tom Brady had a great last 3 years in the NFL, ended up getting the Bucs a Super Bowl, and it all worked out for itself. But it's almost like it's after the Super Bowl where Jason Licht has impressed me so much more than what he did before that. Mike Evans, great pick. Getting Chris Godwin, great pick. And bringing in Tom Brady, awesome acquisition. Drafting Tristan Wirfs, drafting Antoine Winfield, drafting Vita Vea, like I said. It's almost since after their Super Bowl that I've been the most impressed. Just listen to this track record. And we got to go to the notes here. Just listen to this track record that Jason Licht has had since the Super Bowl. First off, let's before we get to the draft picks, why don't we talk about the biggest gamble he took after Tom Brady leaves and retires? The Buccaneers are now left with a really solid, talented roster with no quarterback. So what does he do? He goes and takes a gamble, a shot on former number one overall pick, Baker Mayfield. And that has been one of the greatest additions the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Jason Licht has made, was taking that gamble on Baker Mayfield. In 2 years as the Tampa Bay Buccaneers starting quarterback, in 2023, 2024, Baker Mayfield completed 64% of his passes for a 94.6 rating, 4,044 yards. He threw 28 touchdowns to 10 interceptions. This past season, he was even better than that. This past season, he completed 71% of his passes for a 106.8 quarterback rating, 4,500 yards, 41 touchdowns, 16 picks. Yeah, the pick's a little high. Yes, you can make that case. But what they did, they had to find someone to take over for what, in my opinion, is the greatest quarterback of our generation. You know, my generation, we were just being born when the Montanas and all them were around. Brady was the best quarterback that my generation has seen. And to go from that to Baker Mayfield and what he's done for the Bucs over these past 2 years, Jason Licht took a gamble and he rolled his high hand and he nailed it. But now let's just go back to what he has done since the Super Bowl with his drafting. First off, they've drafted two really good running backs. Bucky Irving, who they just drafted back this past year, he ran for over 1,100 yards and 8 touchdowns in his first year in Tampa Bay. You go to Rachaad White, who they drafted 3 years ago. He's been solid as a runner. I mean, he's had 481, 613, 990 as his yards. He's also a very solid pass catcher out of the backfield. So that's what they've done. They've put their running back tandem together through the draft, which is so important, especially with the way running back shelf life is. Even though paying running backs is actually a sexy thing again, thanks to teams like the Packers, Eagles, and Ravens. But now, just go into, and then, of course, other notable players they have drafted over the last couple of drafts. They got Kalijah Kancey, the defensive lineman out of Pitt. He had 7.5 sacks last year. Of course, they have a defense that's still anchored by Levante David in the middle. Now, David's been there way before Jason Licht took over as GM, but he's still there. But now, if you just look at what the Bucs are doing in terms of just this year's draft alone here in 2025, I personally think that this may be Jason Licht's best draft yet because of the amount of value he got. Also, before I get into it, I do want to remember that some other notable names that he has drafted lately has been Zion McCollum, one of their young corners, Tyke Smith, the one safety they took out of Georgia just a couple years ago. Those are two other players that could be really big players on their defense this year. But if you look at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers draft this year, this is where it gets really impressive. In this year's draft, they took Ohio State wide receiver Emeka Egbuka, who in my opinion is my favorite wide receiver in the draft. Notre Dame corner Benjamin Morrison, which if that hip injury goes away and he's fully 100% healthy, I think could be easily one of the top 5 corner prospects in this draft. Jacob Parrish, who is another one of my highly touted corner prospects in this draft. He probably translates more in that nickel position because he's a little smaller, but still, he's got speed, he's fast, he plays. He's a ball player, just a dog. Then he goes and he drafts David Walker, the edge rusher from, I believe it's Southern Arkansas, underrated edge rusher. Guy is just in the backfield, wreaking havoc on the quarterback. I don't care about the level of competition. It's not relevant. If you can play football, you can play football. Then they took Elijah Roberts, the defensive lineman from SMU. Great guy for interior pressure there. And he drafted, in my opinion, one of my most underrated wide receivers in this draft class, an Oregon wideout, Tez Johnson. Which, no matter what the case was, when he has the football in his hands, he makes plays. That is potentially 6 difference makers and 6 potential guys that will get a lot of playing time or will be starting. First of all, the fact that he went and got Emeka Egbuka when some people could say that, oh, they didn't need to. They didn't need to get Emeka Egbuka. No, they didn't. But Mike Evans is getting older. Chris Godwin's coming off a major leg injury. You don't know if they're going to stay healthy throughout the season. They don't want to risk going through this. And they've already got their wide receivers set up for the future with Egbuka and McMillan, who last year had 8 touchdowns. So right now on paper, they've got Godwin, Evans, McMillan, and Egbuka, and Ted Johnson as their 5 wide receiver. And they are set up in the future when Evans and Godwin are no longer with the team. They are set up with Ibuka and McMillan and maybe Ted Johnson. They're set up for years to come with their running back situation. And not to mention the defensive players here. Benjamin Morrison could be a day one starter if he's 100% healthy. Opposite of maybe Zion McCollum. Parrish could be the starting nickel in that secondary. And again, I think David Walker could be a really good edge rusher. And I mean, I know they signed Hassan Reddick in the offseason, but I think David Walker could be pushing for some playing time really early. This is just my point. This is what Jason Licht has done in Tampa Bay. He puts together these great draft classes. The Bucs don't, outside of quarterback, which is really funny, they don't really go outside the organization for their cornerstone players. They really draft a lot of them. Like I said, Evans, Godwin, Wirfs, Winfield, Vita Vea, all these guys that they have drafted, and they are now cornerstones, and they're looking to the future. They have now Emeka Ibuka, who is going to be their wide receiver one day. You look at it, and they have McMillan, who could be their wide receiver 2. They have Tez Johnson, who could be a playmaker one day in this league. They have the running backs. They continue to draft well on the defensive side of the ball, like I said, with all that talent over there. So I just wanted to come on, and I wanted to point all those things out today. And I hope I did in this little video that I hope you guys all enjoyed. All I wanted to come on here today was and say that since taking over in 2014, Tampa Bay Buccaneers GM Jason Licht should get a lot of credit, not only for that Super Bowl, but to where the Bucs are right now. And that is set up in a really good spot for this year and beyond to stay atop of the NFC South. So guys, I hope you all enjoyed this video. Please go hit that subscribe button here on YouTube for 609 Sports Talk. And remember, we are live every Monday night here on YouTube and over on Facebook at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Have a good weekend, and I'll see you next time.